Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
I would like you all to give a warm welcome to our main speaker, Carol.
Thank you. My name's Carol and I'm an alcoholic. I'd like to thank Don for asking me to come here tonight. I'd like to welcome Peter and happy birthday, Jeannie, and congratulations to all the people that took chips. And I'd like to thank Gloria for coming with me today, because Gloria has been a big inspiration during my sobriety. So I'm going to share on what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And as you can tell, I'm from England. I'm from a little place called Doncaster in Yorkshire, which is North England, near Scotland. And my father was a coal miner, and his parents were Irish and Scottish. And my mother, she was a housewife, and her parents were Roman, Egyptian and Dutch. And there was rampant alcoholism. And it was rampant in both sides of the family. And my father was Roman Catholic and my mother was Protestant. And so there was always arguing about who was in charge. Nobody went to church in my house, but they had a lot of arguments of who was in charge. And my dad used to say, how can the Queen be in charge? What does she know? And my mum would say, what about that Pope sat in Italy? What does he know? You know, sat there in that big Vatican. And my Auntie Dot, which is my mum's only sister, she was a Methodist, and she says, when in doubt, be a Methodist. So she took me to church, and I liked church, you know, and but there was always arguing, and there was always drinking, and yet everybody worked, you know, on my dad's side of family and my mum's side of family, everybody worked. And my Auntie Dot didn't drink, and she's a nurse, and I thought nurses didn't drink, you know. Nurses and policemen, I thought they didn't drink. And my granddad never missed a session. He went to a pub. When he retired, he went every lunchtime and every night, and he walked there and he walked back. And it's a very hard life where I come from. It's very cold, and it's very barren, and it's a hard life. And as a child, I always drank. You know, we went to weddings and we went to parties, and kids drink. And I always remember my sponsor saying to me, well, how did it feel? I haven't got a clue. She says, well, what did you do? I says, well, we went off and played. We'd drink and we'd go off and play, and come back and drink and go off and play. And anyway, I loved school because it got me out the house and all the arguing, because my mum and dad argued a lot. And it wasn't until later on in life that I had come to understand a lot of the arguing. I drank every weekend, even when I was in school, because you can go to the pubs and the working men's clubs, and you know, at 14 and 15 you can go in and drink. And I used to work. I've always worked, even as a kid. Like when my mum started work, I used to do like little household chores, and I used to write them all down, and she'd pay me at end of week, and I used to save me money. And plus my mum used to make all my clothes. She used to make all my dresses and things, so she taught me to sew. So I used to make me clothes and save me money. So I always had money to go out and drink. And getting on in my life into my teenage years, I always went to work, always saved me money, always worked overtime, and I always drank. I was what they call a functioning alcoholic. I always drank and I always worked, and I was never late. And I never called in sick. They say I had a constitution of an ox. It's not that I didn't drink a lot or a little or anything like that. And I always remember when I was young and I was sick, the first time I was ever sick drinking, and I told my granddad, I said, oh, Grandad, I've been ever so sick. He says, hey, lass, thou's been mixing the drinks. I says, I have, Grandad. He says, you pick your poison and stick to it. I says, all right then. So in other words, you pick one drink and you stick to that all night. So anyway, I got married at a very early age. Oh, I went to Spain before I got married. I'd never been out the country, you know, in Yorkshire. There's not a lot goes off, a lot of fields and factories. And I went to Spain. And I went with all the girls from the brass founders. I worked in a brass founders, inspecting brass nuts and bolts. And champagne was about 25 cents a bottle. And we drank champagne all the time. I brushed my teeth with champagne. I thought it was the height of luxury. To get up in the morning and brush your teeth with champagne, because you couldn't drink the water. So, and I always remember we went to this bar and they cut us off. We drank that much champagne, we couldn't drink no more because there was no more chilled and they wouldn't serve it to us warm. And I drank a lot in Spain and I came back 7 pounds lighter and a sprained ankle. And I'd had a fabulous time. Fabulous time. And anyway, I got married when I was 19, and I was only married 10 months, and he decided to have an affair with his best friend's girlfriend. And she decided that she'd come and tell me about it because she couldn't live with it, and I hadn't got a clue. And anyway, she came to my house and she knocked on the door, and I was so surprised to see her, you know, and she came in and she sat down and she says, I'm here to tell you because my conscience is bothering me that I'm having an affair with your husband and I want him and I love him. I said, you better leave while you can. And I'm from a very physical environment. You know, I've had my fair share of good idings. My fair share of good idings were either to knock some sense into me or do me some good. So we're very physical, and I asked her to leave, you know, and then when my husband came home, I told him that you're having an affair, and he denied it. He denied it, and he said I was imagining it. So, of course, I've learnt that I did cross over the line when I was 19. And I didn't get into these rooms till I was 42. Anyway, we got into a physical fight, and I've always had a God in my life. I've always had a God. You know, when you're a kid and you sing all things bright and beautiful and all that, I knew there was somebody made us. You know, somebody made us somewhere. And I always remember saying to God, please, God, give me strength to get this man off me. I had this big glass ashtray on my coffee table, and I picked it up and I smashed him over the head with it, and I split his head open, and I thought I'd killed him. I thought I'd killed him. I'd never seen so much blood in my life. And I run. And I run home to my mother, and I come from the environment, you've made your bed, you lay on it. You're not staying here. Anyway, I went back to the house, and he wasn't there, and I thought, oh, and I went and looked in the garden. I thought, oh, perhaps he's died in the garden, you know. But he wasn't there, and he came back, he'd got 7 stitches in his head, you know, and I says, I can't live like this. I says, I can't live like this, you know, one of us has got to go. And so we got a divorce, and I ran with the girls in my hometown, and we used to do the pubs, go and have half in every one, do the circuit, up to the nightclub, dance, out the nightclub, because where I come from, you eat and drink, eat and drink, eat and drink, so you're soaking it up, and so you maintain. You know, I've learnt out here that not a lot of people eat and drink, they just drink. And I think, well, my goodness. And anyway, and then I met another guy when I was about 24, and we'd been living together, and on our first, then we got married, and on our first wedding anniversary, we went back into the Merchant Navy. Didn't go back in the Merchant Navy while we were living together, but he did when we got married. And we'd just bought a house, and I wasn't impressed being left with all this. Anyway, he said, come with me. So I ended up doing 4.5 years in the Merchant Navy in England, and I got to travel. And one of the qualifications of being in the Merchant Navy is you must be able to drink. And booze is cheap because it's duty free, and it's better than what you buy on land. You know, it's got more proof to it, and it's more stronger. And I started off as a librarian, and I used to have to go and exchange books on different ships in ports. And then I got to be assistant steward. And I went to Northern Ireland quite a few times in the 70s when I was in the Merchant Navy, and it was very scary. And even though I'm part Irish, I mean, it made no difference. And if I went ashore in Northern Ireland, like Belfast and Londonderry, I'd speak with an Irish accent, because it was very heavy in them days. And I always remember the first time we went, and we sat at the back of the Europa Hotel, and we had to catch the bus to go to Londonderry to get on the ship. And I was sat there with a bottle of brandy, my bags, and I was rolling a joint in the bus station, you know. And my husband at that time says, you'll get us busted, you know. You're going to get us busted sat here rolling that joint. I says, there's a bloody war going off. I says, you don't think they're looking at me, do you? There was tanks going by, and watching me rolling a joint sat in this bus station, I can tell you. And that's how I was, you know. Anyway, I did 4.5 years in the Merchant Navy. I went round Africa into the Middle East, and I went into Iran, and I did Russia and East Germany and Poland and up into the Baltic. And when we went up into the Baltic, we had a captain who was an alcoholic, and he said that we didn't need any help getting into Sweden, into Luleå in Sweden, and we're right up into the Baltic there. We didn't need any help, even though we were an icebreaker ship. And next thing you know, we're stuck in ice. And when you're on a ship and you get stuck in pack ice, the ice comes up the side of the ship, and then it comes onto the deck and it pushes your ship down, so you're sinking. And anyway, it was all hands on deck. All hands on deck. Well, as all alcoholics, we suffer with bouts of depression, and I was no exception. And there was many a time I used to say, please God, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of living like this. I'm sick of myself, blah, blah, blah. If there's any chance you could take me, I know you're busy. I know you've got a lot on, but if you could take me, I'd be grateful. But like on the ship that time, I didn't want to go like this. As I'm chipping the ice off, I didn't want to go like this. And we radioed for an icebreaker, and it came and it circled us. But 20 minutes out on deck when it's 38 below and all your eyebrows are frozen and all the air's up your nose. And anyway, we got through that experience. And then I was on another ship going through the Straits of Gibraltar, and the rudder dropped off. And you know, in my drunken states, when I look back in my drunken states, and I woke up because the ship was moving a different direction, and I got out my bunk, and I'm in that much water, where you know there's something wrong when you're on a ship and you're in that much water. You know, and there's all water coming through the portholes because we're moving around too much. And these were my kind of experiences of drinking and using. You know, I got into Africa and I went to score some ganja, because you've got to get the right name in the right country, you know. And I went to score some ganja, and they took me into the jungle. It was like off National Geographic. That's how sick I was. I didn't care where I went, you know, as long as I was going to get what I wanted. And they took me into this jungle, and I thought, I'll be all right. I'm from Yorkshire. You know, I'm all right here. And this guy told me it cost me £2 for 2 big bags of ganja, which was like about $4. Anyway, he says, you'll have to wait here. I says, wait here? In this jungle? He says, well, it's frowned upon, you know, that you're a woman and that you smoke, so you've got to wait. I says, well, don't be long, don't be leaving me here. And I thought, I'll be all right, you know. And I'm puffing away on this cigarette in this African jungle. And I turned round, and there it was, this dead snake and 1,000 maggots crawling all over it. Oh, I screamed. Everything took off in the jungle. It was, and everybody come running. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I said, oh, I couldn't speak. Oh, dear. And I even went into the Middle Eastern countries where there's no alcohol. I got alcohol. Oh, you won't get drunk here. Want to bet? You'll always find somebody somewhere. And in these Middle Eastern countries, this is how you get alcohol. You cannot buy alcohol. You have to buy tickets. And then you go to these places and you exchange tickets for drinks. But you can't buy alcohol with money. Same difference, you still got it, you know. And South Africa was the same, you know. It was like, even though they had this big racial thing going off, I still managed to score me ganja, me Durban poison, and I still managed to get me Cape brandy. And I always remember when I went to score in South Africa and we got in this taxi, because the guy in Tanzania gave me this address in Durban. He says, go there, you'll get what you need. And this taxi driver says, you'll never come out of there alive. I'll be seeing you on news tomorrow. Oh, there's always somebody to spoil your fun, isn't there? Hey? Always somebody to spoil it. So anyway, I got what I needed, and I went and drank me brandy, and I ate these great big queen shrimp. And so my drinking and using was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And there was one time I was on a ship, and it was its last voyage. And the captain of the ship said we could take anything off the ship and sell it. Oh, I thought, right then. So I took the ship's bell, I thought, we don't need it, we can sell it. As we're coming back from the Canary Islands to England, we hit fog, thick fog, and we've no ship's bell. The captain's saying, who sold the ship's bell? Well, I'm not putting my hand up to that. You know, we could hit something, nobody can hear us. Well, can't we go and stand on deck and shout? But I wasn't putting my hand up to that. I've also been on a ship where we've had lifeboat drill and lost the lifeboat. There's only 2 lifeboats and we've lost one. Now we've got more people that can get in a lifeboat, so we won't have lifeboat drill no more, just in case, you know. And when I look back, all the drinking, I was always like, drinking, I always got that buzz going all the time. My husband and I, then after this, we got divorced and I worked a few more years and I came to this country when I was 30. And I only came for a year. I'd had enough of my country and its winters. And I was brewing my own beer in England. I used to make this Thixton's Old Peculiar. And it was like rocket fuel. 1 bottle and you were there. And I used to grow my own dope. And I used to work in a factory, 3 shifts, days, nights and afters. And anyway, I got busted for cultivation of marijuana, and in my country it carries a sentence of 14 years. And it was unbelievable. I'd never been busted or caught for anything before in my life, and to be 29 years old and caught and busted in this town, I was locked up, I wasn't given anything to drink, nothing to eat, I wasn't allowed a phone call. Oh, it was horrendous. I wrote to the government, and I told them as a taxpayer I thought it was pretty disgusting the way I was treated. And they told me I could complain, you know. And after that I decided I was leaving, and I came here for a visit in 1980. I came for a visit, and I thought, oh, this America's not too bad at all, is it, eh? They speak the same language, they have tomato ketchup, you know, and the food's all right, and the climate's nice. So I went back and I applied for another visa, because with me being busted it was on record, so I had to apply for another visa, and they gave me an indefinite one, which meant I could come and go from here as many times as I wanted. Well, I had full intentions of coming here and never leaving again. And off I went. I'd never seen drinks in glasses like it when I came here. I mean, great big glasses. Everything in my country is measured with 1 ice cube. I mean, those tequilas, they were like drinking out of goldfish bowls, you know? And those Long Island iced teas. And drinks with umbrellas and flowers. I mean, my goodness. It's an alcoholic's dream. And I've always worked here, and of course I was illegal. I was illegal for many years, and I got a dodgy green card, and my first social security number, because they used to say when I used to go for interviews for work, do you have permission to work? I says, I do. I do have permission to work. My permission. And I'd have this dodgy green card, and my first social security number, I made it up. Because I didn't know, you know, I didn't know that you had to go and get a social security number, so I made it up. Well, anyway, then I had to file taxes on this made-up social security number, didn't I? And they sent me a letter back to say that they owed me money, but they couldn't give it me because of this number didn't match my name. I thought, we'll put that aside. Anyway, as time went on, I thought I'd better get a proper number. And through knowing somebody who knows somebody and everything else in the English crowd, because I always ran with the English crowd, I got to buy one. And I got to buy one from the Social Security for $150. I still have the same number today. No, I don't. I have a different number now. Anyway, I always worked while I was here. I ran with the English crowd. I was one of these that functioned. The bills were paid. The house was clean, the laundry was done, there was food in the fridge, and I was as dead as a doornail. And I'd worked in Beverly Hills for a very famous international rock star and for about 7 years, and I got fired from this job, and within a year I crashed and burned, and I lived on a little boat in the marina. And I used to live with this guy, and he came home one night and he said that he didn't want me, didn't need me, didn't love me, and that he was leaving. Anyway, I was devastated. I was heartbroken. And he left and he went to live with his friend, and a couple of days later I went round to his friend's house, and I didn't know that he'd got himself another honey, a girl that he used to work with, who I used to chat with on the phone. Hey, some nerve. And Anyway, I sat on my boat, and I'd been drinking, and there was a girl who had a boat near me, and her name was Louise. And I went down to see her, and I said, you know what, Louise, I've got a drinking problem, and I have no idea what to do. I am clueless. She says, you go to Chase Park on Monday morning. She says, they'll help you out. She says, you go there. And I went round that Monday morning, and I sat round that table. I'd got no idea what they said. But at the end, they all stood up, held hands, and said Lord's Prayer. I thought, oh, I'm coming here again. I like this. Because it reminded me of school, and it felt nice, you know. And I went every morning. And I was smoking pot when I went to meetings, and I was doing like 2, nearly 3 meetings a day. And Gloria was always there. I always remember Gloria saying to me, I'm going to take you to a meditation meeting on Tuesday night. I says, a meditation meeting? I says, oh, what goes off there then? She says, you sit quiet for 20 minutes. I says, 20 minutes? I says, you want me to sit quiet for 20 minutes? I says, you must be joking. So I definitely had to have a couple of hits off a joint for that one. So I goes to these meetings, and I liked them. I like these meetings, you know. And reading from 12 and 12 and big book, I thought, oh, I do like this. Anyway, I went to Chase Park this particular morning, and there was a woman there with many years sobriety, and she told me I couldn't come anymore. She says, you can't come to Alcoholics Anonymous no more, you're stoned. I said, so? And I always remember coming out, and Gloria was stood against the wall, and I says, Gloria, I'm not coming here no more. She says, why? I says, so-and-so says I can't come because I'm stoned. And Gloria went in and said, Tradition 3, a desire to stop drinking. I'd stopped drinking, but I was still smoking pot. And this woman said I wasn't clean and sober when she told me I couldn't come, and I said I was. I'd had a shower, and I'd not had a drink. And to me, that's how sick I was. I was clean and sober. I'd not had a drink, and I'd had a shower. And I was sick. I had 2 brain cells left by the time I got here. 2 brain cells. I remember I did relapse after this, you know, when this woman told me to leave, and I did relapse, and there was 7 of us left that particular weekend. It was Memorial Day weekend, and there were 7 of us out that group left.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
And 2 of us came back, and only 1 of us stayed, and it was me. And I always think I'm one of God's problem children. I'm one of his problem children, you know, so therefore he looks after me a bit more. That's what I'd like to think. And today, the success I am today is because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And when I came back and I raised my hand again, it felt different. There was something different. And trudged that rocky, happy road of destiny. And you have your ups and downs as you're getting sober. Oh my God, I had a problem with gas stations when I first got sober. I'd go and gas my car, I'd pay the money, drive off, not gas the car. I have to come back. Then there was the time I shoved the hose in the tank, thought I'd wash my windscreen, drove off with the hose still in the tank. And I thought somebody had thrown something at my car. Oh, you know. The sponsor at the time, she says, I think you ought to go self-service, it might be a bit better for you, you know. And I always remember as well, sitting on my boat, clinging onto the table, knowing that things were going to change. Everything was going to change. And I was petrified. I was scared stiff, and I was sat there thinking, oh, what's it all going to change into? What am I going to be like? Where am I going to be? Fear, total fear. And I like the changes. I welcome them, I really do. And one of the things I remember about when I was getting clean and sober, because I always stuck up for myself and looked after myself, is I went to empty my mailbox. And as I got in my car, I caught this truck with my car. And the guy came, I'm reading this letter from my mum, and the guy came round and he kicked my car door. He says, who do you think you are? He says, catching my truck with your car. And in them days, I used to strut around in these gold high heels and this short miniskirt. I thought, I'll show you who I am. And I got out that car, I thought, I'm going to deck him. And I walked round the truck in my gold high heels, and I got round, and he got in his truck, and he closed the door right quick. I says, I would like to say I'm terribly sorry for catching your truck with my car. And I walked off, and I thought, what's this? This is what they must be talking about. talking about things like this in these rooms. Anyway, another difficult time I had in sobriety, and a lady told me I had to go to the rooms, go to the meetings, and lean into the program. I heard it totally different. I went to the meetings, and whoever was sat next to me, I says, I hope you don't mind, but I've got to lean on you. And they didn't mind. They didn't mind. This is what you do? I says, yeah. I says, my friend says I've got to lean into the program, so you don't mind if I lean on you, do you? Nobody minded. And I've had my ups and downs since I've been clean and sober, but I've never drank and I've never used. Lost my mind a few times. And one of the things I'm very grateful for is that when I was 2 years, 3 months clean and sober, I remember saying to my sponsor, how come everybody's getting everything? How come everybody's getting the new car and the new house and the job and everything? I says, I'm still living on my leaky boat, driving around with my car that's got holes in the roof. She says, keep going to meetings, Carol, get yourself a good foundation. Those new cars and those new houses will not keep them sober. Get yourself a good... So anyway, I was going to meetings, and then I got the news that my mum wasn't very well and that she was dying. And anyway, I was illegal. I was an illegal alien. I even asked my sponsor at the time, did Alcoholics Anonymous take illegal aliens? She says, yes, we take anybody. And I went to 3 meetings, and I shared at group level that I was an illegal alien, that my mother was dying, I had to get out the country and I had to get back in. And I firmly believe that whatever I need, I will find in these rooms. And this big Australian guy came up to me and he says, do you have trouble with the INS? I says, no. I says, they don't even know I'm here. He says, well, this is what you do. He says, I used to be a private international investigator before the drugs and alcohol took it away. He says, this is how you get out the country and this is how you get back. Only in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I flew on Virgin Atlantic because I could only leave on Virgin or British Airways, not an American carrier. And I got into England and I drove up to my hometown and I went to meet my Auntie Dot. Now, my Auntie Dot has never drank. She's never done drugs, she's not been married, and she's been a nurse all her life. And she come to the front door, I've been travelling nearly 18 hours, she come to the front door and she says, oh, I don't like the colour of your hair and you're way too thin. I says, oh, it's lovely to see you, Auntie Dot, because Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me that we don't argue, you know? We don't argue. I've learnt. I used to say, please God help me keep my mouth shut. And I says, oh, it's lovely to see you, and we had a cup of tea, and we went up to hospital to see my mum, and my mum was dying, and she died of this disease. She was a Johnny Walker red drinker, and she always worked. Everything was all normal on the outside. And I went to see her in hospital, and she was there, and she was on the morphine pump, and I shouted, Mum, I'm here. Oh, and she jumped, you know, and she was so pleased to see me, but she was so heavily sedated, and she faded in and out, and anyway, my Auntie Dot took me to my mum's flat. They're like apartments, and she lived in countryside, and it was beautiful, and she'd got all my old stuff. And anyway, I'd go and see my mum, and she still shouted at me when she was dying. My mother always shouted at me. Since I've got clean and sober, I can't stand it. I can't stand anybody shouting at me. But my mum said, what are you doing with that cardigan on? That's mine. I says, I know it is, Mum. I says, don't it look nice on me? I says, it's cold out there. She says, it's July. I says, it's still cold to me. I says, I've come from California. I says, this is cold. And she'd tell me to go and water her plants, and she wanted a refrigerator defrosting. Defrost my refrigerator. I says, I'm doing it. And I went, I watered her plants, defrosted the refrigerator, and she got sicker and sicker. And she was so scared. And only because of Alcoholics Anonymous that I knew what to say. And I told her that heaven was a beautiful place, and it was like Spain, because my mum always went to Spain. She liked Spain. And I says, it's nice and warm. I says, God's waiting for you, and he's going to make you a lovely cup of tea when you get there. And I told her prayers. I told her our 3rd step prayer and our 7th step prayer, and that it was all right to go. I says, you're all right to go, you know, Mum. Everything's done. Your fridge is defrosted. Your plants are watered. I says, it's all done. I says, now you can go. You'll be all right. And on the Sunday, she looked really well. I thought, she's not dying. Anyway, I went on the Monday and she was in so much pain. And in my country, when everything's been said and done, you can request an injection to send them on the way. If there's no way they're ever going to get better, you can request this injection. And I was the next of kin, and I went and I said, you know what, I'd like my mum to have this injection. I can't bear it. She was in so much pain that Monday morning. And I said, it'll be all right, Mum. She says, no, it bloody won't be all right. I says, no, it won't, will it? You know, oh dear. And I sat with her and they gave her the injection, and I sat with her and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was like we were hanging out. And she was fading in and out, in and out. And I got to speak in my hometown that night. And when I came back to the hospital to visit her, all the doors were locked. And they said I could come any time. And I thought, oh, I'll see her in the morning. I've been with her all afternoon. And when I got down to my auntie Dot's said that she just had the phone call that my mum had died. And I found that wherever I go, there's Alcoholics Anonymous. And there was a lady in my hometown who'd been sober 30 years. She got sober in London. And her name was Mary. And I called her up and I says, Mary, my mum's just died. And I always remember her saying, let's say the Serenity Prayer together. Because I just needed that connection, because my Auntie Dot wasn't that connection, and I needed it. Anyway, I got the funeral together. We went to the funeral parlour, and my Auntie Dot, bless her, was sat there making arrangements for my mum, and the man says, and what religion was your mum? I says, oh, she was Church of England. And my Auntie Dot says, no, she wasn't. She was a nomad. I says, no, she wasn't. I thought, oh, we're off. We're off. They said, would you like her buried? I says, yes, I would, actually. I'd like her in the family plot, because they've got my grandma and granddad in this family plot. My Auntie Dot says, we're having her cremated. I says, no, we're not. We're having her buried. She says, Carol, we're having her cremated. I says, yeah, we're having her cremated. I thought, I'm not arguing. And I don't know what it was with my Auntie Dot, but if she wanted to try and get me going or what, or she says, I don't know how you can sit there. I just don't know how you can sit there so calm. I says, well, this is what Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me to do. And I'm sick of hearing about the Alcoholics Anonymous, and don't be telling anybody you're an alcoholic. I don't want neighbours knowing. I says, well, all right then, you know. And while we're at it, she says, you stir your tea too loud. My mother's just died. You stir your tea too loud, you can't put kettle lid on properly, and you walk through house too quick. Well, to an alcoholic, that's quite damaging. Anyway, I just did whatever I was told here, you know, and I loved her, and I tried to do my best by her. And then it came to coming back into this country, and I got my passport, because I had to get a passport, because there's a 6-week window to get from the UK into America before all the information's exchanged. And a girlfriend of mine who I've known for many years here, her mother lives in Niagara Falls, and her mother says, I'll take you over the border, no problem. So I flew Manchester, London, Toronto, lied through my back teeth. Oh yes, I'm just here on holiday. Got the return ticket, got to Niagara Falls, made me flight arrangement from Buffalo, Baltimore, LA. Anyway, the morning comes as I'm getting on the plane that afternoon, and my girlfriend's mum says, I can't take you over the bridge. She says, I can't take you, Carol. She says, if they hear your accent, she says, I'm going to be in so much trouble. I says, well, you're taking me baggage. I'd got a little weekend bag. I mean, when I travel, I don't travel with a lot of things. I've got a little case. I says, you're taking that. And I went to Bottom Garden and I asked God, where did he want me? Did he want me in England? Did he want me in Canada? Did he want me in America? Where did he want me? And I walked across the bridge from Niagara Falls into Buffalo, and I walked into immigration place, and I got my passport. I'd got Canadian money, English money, American money, got my tickets. And I says, I wonder if there'd be any chance I could do a couple of hours shopping. I'd like to do some shopping on the American side, please. I said, fill this form in. So I filled the form in and I dated it the American way. I thought, oh, I better slip that back in my pocket, start again, date it the English way. And I gave him my passport, and I sat there and I shook, and as I looked down I could see my clothes moving. I was shaking that much because I'm smuggling myself back into this country. Anyway, he said, come here, you know, and I seen him take this guy off in handcuffs. I thought, oh, I wonder if I'm going to be next. And he said, there you go, have a nice day shopping. And I came through the other door onto the American side. and I shook that much, and I tried to light this cigarette, and I couldn't get the light to the cigarette. I was like this. And I walked across the checkpoint, and I got to the other side, and I couldn't find my ride. I didn't know where she was parked. I found her, and she drove me to Buffalo Airport. She says, we're sat there waiting for the plane. She says, you're not going to get on that plane, are you? I says, why, what's wrong with it? She says, it's got propellers. I says, I've just walked over a bloody bridge. I says, what's a plane with propellers? And I got back into America. And when I came back to LA, there was women from the program there to meet me and help me. And through Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been able to go and tell them I was here 15 years illegal. Well, I've overstayed my welcome by 15 years. It's not gone down well. It's not gone down well at all. But I got a good lawyer through a woman who recommended it. She was Brazilian. She says, go and see this man. He's been doing immigration for 30 years. If he can get you a green card, he'll get you one. Anyway, it's cost me a lot of money. It's cost me nearly $6,000. I've still not got my green card. But I am allowed to work. I do have permission to work. I get a work permit. And I applied for this green card, and a year into it, they said I couldn't stay because I wasn't married. I was from a first world country, and I had no children. So there was no reason to keep me here. And my lawyer says, is there any way you can prove that you can stay here, Carol? And I came to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I asked anybody and everybody to write me letters. Everybody wrote me letters. I got about 30 of them, and I took them because I only had 30 days to get all this together. I got a letter a day, and I took them to my lawyer, and I had to sit 5 months, and in that 5 months I got burglarized as well. I got burglarized, and the country didn't want me. And I moved. And I wouldn't unpack all my stuff. All the boxes I had, I'd put tablecloths on them. I had more side tables than anybody I knew, you know. Everybody said, oh, and you got a lot of tables. This is the boxes, they just look nice, you know. I wouldn't unpack. I thought, well, I might not be able to stay. And anyway, a couple of days before Thanksgiving 2 years ago, they said I could stay. I had permission to stay in the country. But I then applied to go and visit the Auntie Dot, because she's my only living relative. And they denied me. No, they denied me because I've been naughty. I overstayed my welcome more than 15 years. I should have only been here 120 days. And so that's my punishment. And I'm applying again for a work permit. I've got to go back downtown and get another work permit. And I spoke to my lawyer the other day. He says, you're going to get your green card this year. I says, don't tell lies. I says, you've been saying that for the last 2 years. Go and get your medical. You're getting your green card this year. Anyway, I spoke to the paralegal, and she says, I think it's going to be this year, but I can't get the enthusiasm up to think I'm going to get it. And also, thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous, that regenerated me 2 brain cells that I had 6 years ago. I now work in a beautiful office. I work in an office on Wilshire Boulevard, and I answer the phone for 100 people, and it's a brokerage house. It's stockbrokers. I get to see the disease from 6 o'clock in the morning. It's alive and well and thriving. And there are a lot of young guys, and these young guys make a lot of money. And I sit and answer the phone for them all, you know, from 6 in the morning while 2 in the afternoon. And I was telling Gloria I had to do a sexual harassment course. I come from a place where there's no such thing as sexual harassment. Whatever they give, you give it them back. Well, it took me 6 hours. 6 hours looking at this screen. I thought I was the dimmest thing on our floor. I thought, you know, all them drugs and alcohol definitely fried a lot of brains. But Alcoholics Anonymous has also taught me that we persevere and we keep going and going and going. And I was determined I was not leaving that desk. And I was still working. I still had to do my job and do this course. And when I finished section 6, it said, congratulations, you now earned your certificate. I passed. I'm no wiser. I'm absolutely no wiser. I couldn't tell you a thing on sexual harassment, but I passed the course. And I thought, oh, thank you, God, thank you, AA, for all that you've taught me and all that I've heard and all that I've learned. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for having me, and thank you for participating in my sobriety. Good night.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.